Ever feel like you're just spinning your wheels? You know? Like putting in the effort, but not really getting anywhere.
Yeah, like you're missing some sort of secret formula for success.
Exactly. Well, today we're diving deep into a guide that claims to have that formula.
The 7 habits of highly effective people.
Right. And it's not about those quick fix kind of solutions or life hacks.
No, it's more of a whole philosophy, you know.
Okay, yeah, a framework for lasting change.
Exactly. And the book starts off with this, well, it's kind of a bold statement.
Oh,
It says, the way most of us think about success is actually what's holding us back.
interesting. So how does it break that down?
It dives into what it calls the personality ethic.
The personality ethic. Okay, I'm listening.
It's basically all those outward techniques we're told to focus on.
Like, what kind of things?
It's like, charm, positive thinking, communication tricks.
Right, right.
The book says those things can be helpful,
Yeah.
but they're kind of like icing on a cake.
Okay. I like where this is going.
You need a solid cake underneath for the icing to actually matter.
And that cake is...
The character ethic.
Okay, so the character ethic, that's the foundation.
Exactly. It's about building yourself up based on principles.
Okay. So what kind of principles are we talking about here?
Things like integrity, honesty, fairness, the real deal.
I see. So it's not just about appearing successful.
Right. It's about actually being a good person, a trustworthy person.
That makes sense. So how do we build this character ethic?
Well, that's where paradigms come in.
Paradigms. Okay. Gotta admit, not familiar with that term.
Yeah, so it's like, think of them as our mental models of the world.
Okay, our own personal maps.
Exactly. And those maps can help us or, totally mislead us.
I'm starting to see where this is going. So we might be working with the wrong map.
It happens all the time. We have these outdated, incomplete ideas about how things work.
And those inaccurate paradigms, they can lead to what?
Frustration, ineffectiveness. Even if we're putting in the effort,
So the book is saying we need to examine those paradigms.
It's a crucial first step. Really question your own beliefs and assumptions.
To see if we're even on the right track.
Exactly. Because if you're working with the wrong map, you're going to get lost no matter how hard you try.
It's like trying to get around Chicago with a map of Detroit.
Perfect analogy.
So we've got to figure out what map we're using and if it's even accurate.
And once you have a clearer map, you can start to navigate more effectively.
Okay, that makes sense. So how do we start to build up those principles, that character ethic?
The book argues that effectiveness, it operates on principles, like nature does,
Okay. What do you mean by that?
You can't just skip planting seeds and then expect a harvest.
Right, you got to put in the work.
Yeah.
Nurture things.
Exactly. Same goes for our lives. We have to cultivate those principles.
So like trust, fairness, integrity, these are things we have to actively build.
Right. They don't just magically appear.
It's like tending a garden.
Perfect analogy.
Uh-huh.
And that brings us to another key concept from the book.
Oh.
I'm intrigued.
The PPC balance.
Yeah.
It's this idea of production versus production capability.
PPC balance. Production versus production capability. Okay, break that down for me.
So think of it like this. Imagine you have this goose that lays golden eggs.
Okay, a golden goose. I like it.
The eggs, those are the results we want in life, right? The success, achievements, all that.
The golden eggs are what we're all chasing.
But the goose itself, that's your ability to actually produce those results.
Oh, I see. So it's not enough to just focus on those golden eggs.
Right. You have to take care of the goose, nurture it so it keeps laying those eggs.
So we need to invest in our capacity to achieve those results.
Exactly. And the book gives some really vivid examples of what happens when we don't do that.
Oh, like what?
Like running a machine into the ground just for short-term gains.
Right, not thinking about the long-term consequences.
Or watering down a recipe just to save money.
Or pushing a kid too hard, they get burnt out.
Exactly. And neglecting that goose ultimately sabotages your ability to produce those golden eggs. So it's not just about pushing for results.
Right. It's about finding that balance, taking care of yourself, your skills, your relationships.
So you can keep producing those golden eggs sustainably.
Exactly. And that leads perfectly into habit 1, be proactive.
Be proactive. Okay, what does that mean?
It means you're not just reacting to circumstances.
So not letting things just happen to us.
Exactly. You're consciously choosing how you respond to any given situation.
So we have more control than we think.
Absolutely. You're not just a leaf blowing in the wind. You have agency.
It's like taking ownership of our lives.
Exactly. The book uses this powerful example. Viktor Frankl.
Oh yeah, the Holocaust survivor.
Yeah. He wrote Man's Search for Meaning. It's amazing.
Right. I remember reading that.
So Frankl, he found meaning even in a concentration camp.
Wow. That's incredible.
He recognized that even in the worst possible circumstances, he still had the freedom to choose his response.
His attitude, his inner world.
Right. Even when everything else was stripped away, he had that power.
That's really inspiring. But how do we apply that principle to, everyday life?
Well, the book introduces this really helpful concept, the circles of concern and influence.
Okay, the circles of concern and influence. I'm listening.
So the circle of concern, that's everything we care about,
Yeah.
from our own health to, world peace.
Huge circle, a lot of stuff in there.
But inside that big circle, there's a smaller one, the circle of influence.
What's in that one?
That's the stuff we can actually do something about, where we can make a real difference.
So it's about focusing our energy on what we can control.
Exactly. Instead of getting bogged down by, worry and anxiety about things we can't change.
That makes sense. Focus on where you can make an impact.
And proactive people, they put their energy right there. They don't just complain, they take initiative.
They find solutions, take action.
Exactly. It's like shifting from a victim mindset to an empowered mindset.
So we're not just letting life happen to us. We're shaping it.
And that leads us right into habit 2. Begin with the end in mind.
Begin with the end in mind. Okay, tell me more about that.
It's about having a clear vision, knowing what you want to achieve.
So it's more than just setting goals.
It's about really envisioning the life you want to create, making sure your actions are taking you there.
It's like having a blueprint.
Exactly. You wouldn't just start building a house without a plan, would you?
No way. That would be a disaster. So we need a blueprint for our lives, too.
That's the idea. The book suggests creating a personal mission statement. Have you ever thought about doing that?
Honestly, I haven't. I get so caught up in just getting through each day.
I hear that. It's easy to get lost in the day-to-day.
But this idea, a personal mission statement, it's like taking the time to actually design the life you want.
That's the power of habit 2. You're not just reacting to circumstances, you're creating your own program.
I'm definitely feeling inspired to work on that. So where do we go from there?
Well, once you know where you want to go, then it's about putting those plans into action.
And that's where habit 3 comes in.
Exactly. Put first things first.
Okay, put first things first. Sounds pretty straightforward.
It's about prioritizing, right? Making sure you're working on the things that matter most.
So not just getting caught up in the urgent stuff, but focusing on what's truly important.
Exactly. And to help with that, the book introduces this tool called the quadrant system.
Quadrant system, okay. Love a good visual.
So imagine a matrix, right? It divides activities into 4 quadrants.
Okay, I'm visualizing it. 4 quadrants. Based on what?
Urgency and importance. So that's for things that are both urgent and important.
Like crises, deadlines, stuff you can't ignore.
Exactly. Now, quadrant 2, that's for things that are important but not urgent.
So like planning, personal development, relationship building.
Exactly. They're important, but they don't have that immediate deadline pressure.
Easy to let those slide when you're busy.
Which is why they need to be prioritized.
Yep.
The book argues that those quadrant 2 activities, they're the ones that really move the needle in your life.
So neglecting those is like, what, shooting yourself in the foot?
More like letting your car run out of gas because you didn't stop to fill up.
Ooh, good analogy. So how do we become more quadrant 2 focused?
It's about being intentional with your time. Learning to delegate, say no to distractions.
And proactively schedule time for those activities that align with your goals and values.
You got it. It's about being busy doing the right things.
This is really making me rethink my whole approach to time management.
It's a game changer. And speaking of changing the game, that's just the first 3 habits, the private victories.
Right, the foundation. We're building ourselves up.
Exactly. But the next 4 habits, those are all about public victory.
Oh, so that's where the relationships come in.
You got it. We'll be diving into those in part 2 of this deep dive.
Can't wait. This is already so insightful.
It's gonna be good. All right, so welcome back to our deep dive into the 7 habits of highly effective people.
Okay, so last time we really dug into those first 3 habits.
Right. The private victories, as the book calls them.
All about, what was it, self-mastery, kind of?
Exactly. Becoming more proactive, purposeful, all that good stuff.
So now we're moving into the public victories.
Yeah, you got it. This is where we start to apply those principles to our interactions with others.
So we have the relationship stuff. I'm ready for this.
And it all starts with habit 4. Think win-win.
Think win-win. Okay, so what does that mean exactly?
It's about shifting our mindset, moving away from that me versus you mentality.
Like that competitive mindset.
Yeah.
Always trying to come out on top.
Exactly. That win-lose paradigm, it can be so toxic, especially in relationships.
It's like that saying, if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together.
Right. But so often we get caught up in that go alone mentality.
Like it's a zero-sum game.
One person's gain is the other person's loss.
No wonder so many relationships end up filled with conflict.
Exactly. But the book is saying, it doesn't have to be that way.
Okay, so how do we break out of that?
We can choose to approach our interactions with a win-win mindset.
So instead of trying to beat the other person, we're looking for solutions that benefit everyone involved.
You got it. Seeking mutually beneficial outcomes.
This sounds great in theory, but is it really possible? In the real world?
It definitely takes effort, but it's possible. And the book highlights a few key ingredients.
Okay, like what?
Those character traits we talked about earlier, remember? Integrity, maturity, abundance mentality.
Right. The foundation we were talking about. So how do those play into this win-win stuff?
Well, integrity means, keeping your commitments, being honest and transparent.
Right, being trustworthy.
Maturity, that's about finding a balance, having the courage to express your own needs.
But also being considerate of the needs of others.
Exactly, and the abundance mentality, that's huge.
That's the belief that there's enough to go around.
Exactly, you're not threatened by other people's success.
Okay, so those are the ingredients for creating win-win situations.
They lay the groundwork for trust and respect.
Which makes collaboration so much easier.
Exactly. And when we're operating from that win-win mindset, we're more likely to find creative solutions.
Solutions that everyone feels good about, not just compromises.
It's about finding that third alternative, as the book calls it.
The third alternative, so it's not my way or your way.
Right. It's a solution that's even better than either of our original ideas.
Okay, I like that. It's like thinking outside the box. But what if you're dealing with someone who's totally stuck in that win-lose mentality?
That can be tough. The book acknowledges that.
Yeah, because it's like they're trying to pull you into their game.
But even then, the key is still the relationship.
So even if the other person is being competitive, we should still focus on building trust.
Exactly. We can make deposits in that emotional bank account, remember?
Right. Show courtesy, respect. Try to understand their perspective.
And often, just by staying committed to that win-win principle, we can influence the other person.
Like we're leading by example, showing them a different way to approach things.
Exactly. And that leads perfectly into habit 5. Seek first to understand, then to be understood.
Okay, seek first to understand, then to be understood. That sounds like a tall order.
It's definitely a habit that takes practice, but it's so powerful.
So what does it mean to seek first to understand?
It's about becoming a truly empathic listener, putting aside your own agenda for a moment.
Really trying to see things from the other person's point of view.
Exactly. And this is hard because we're often so focused on, getting our own point across.
Right, or coming up with a solution or giving advice.
But habit 5 is saying, hold on, let's slow down and really listen first.
Listen with the intent to understand, not just to reply.
You got it. It's about putting yourself in the other person's shoes, seeing the world through their lens.
That requires a lot of empathy.
It does. And patience, which, let's be honest, those aren't always our strongest qualities.
Especially in today's world, everything's so fast-paced.
Wait, but the book offers some really helpful strategies for developing those skills.
Okay, like what?
One of the key takeaways is to listen with your eyes, ears, and heart.
Okay, what does that mean?
It's about paying attention to more than just the words.
So like body language, tone of voice?
Exactly. Picking up on the emotions behind the words.
It's like you're trying to really get inside their head.
Then their heart.
Really understand where they're coming from.
And once you've done that, then you can start to make yourself understood.
It's like you're building a bridge of understanding.
Exactly. And that bridge is essential for habit 6. Synergize.
Okay, synergize. I'm intrigued.
This habit is all about the magic that happens when people come together.
Like teamwork.
It's more than that. It's about recognizing that the whole is greater than the sum of its parts.
So like 1 + 1 = 3.
Exactly. When people with different perspectives and skills come together, they can create something amazing.
Something that none of them could have achieved individually.
You got it. It's about leveraging those differences.
Okay, I love this idea, but how do we actually make it happen?
It takes conscious effort, for sure. You need to create an environment of trust, And respect.
Or people feel safe to share their ideas, even if they're different.
Exactly. And it's about recognizing that those differences, they're actually a strength.
Not a weakness.
Right. The best solutions often come from the collision of different perspectives.
It's like that saying, if two people always agree, one of them is unnecessary.
Exactly. We need that diversity of thought to spark innovation and creativity.
Okay, so we've got to cultivate that open, collaborative environment.
And we have to remember that synergy, it's not a one-time thing. It's something we have to nurture.
Like a plant, you've got to water it, give it sunlight.
Exactly. And that brings us to the final habit.
Habit 7, sharpen the saw.
You got it. It's all about renewal, taking care of ourselves so we can keep being effective.
Okay, so habit 7, sharpen the saw. We've got to hear more about this one.
Yeah, this habit is all about recognizing that we can't, just keep giving and giving without taking care of ourselves.
We can't pour from an empty cup, as they say.
Exactly. If we want to live out those other 6 habits, be effective in all areas of our lives.
We've got to make sure we're taking care of our own well-being, too.
Right. Think of it like sharpening a saw.
Okay, I'm listening.
If you don't take the time to sharpen the blade, it gets dull, right? It becomes way less effective.
Makes sense. Can't cut through much with a dull blade, so we need to sharpen our own blades, metaphorically speaking.
Exactly. And the book breaks it down into 4 key dimensions.
Oh, okay, I'm interested. What are the 4 dimensions?
Physical, spiritual, mental, and social-emotional.
So it's a holistic approach to self-care.
That's the idea. It's about taking care of yourself in all aspects of life.
Okay, let's break those down a bit. Starting with the physical, what does that look like?
Well, that one's pretty straightforward. Taking care of your body, exercise, nutrition, sleep, all that.
Right, the basics. But so easy to let those slide when you're busy.
Totally. We sacrifice sleep to get work done and grab fast food because we don't have time to cook.
And then we wonder why we're feeling burnt out and sluggish.
Exactly. And it's not just about avoiding burnout. It's about feeling your best,
Yeah.
Having the energy to do the things you want to do.
So it's like investing in your health so you can be more effective in other areas of your life.
Exactly. Okay, so what about spiritual renewal? What does that mean to you?
Well, I think for me it's about connecting with something bigger than myself.
Okay, I like that. Connecting with something bigger.
Whether that's through nature, meditation, even just spending time in quiet reflection.
Finding that sense of meaning and purpose.
Right. Reminding yourself of what's truly important.
And aligning your actions with those values.
Exactly. Okay, so that's physical and spiritual. What about mental renewal?
The mental dimension is all about keeping your mind sharp, learning new things, expanding your knowledge.
So reading, taking courses, having those thought-provoking conversations.
Exactly. It's about staying curious, challenging your intellect.
I love that.
Yeah.
Like lifelong learning, right?
Exactly. Never stop learning, never stop growing.
And finally, the social-emotional dimension.
This one's all about relationships, nurturing those connections, building emotional intelligence.
Makes me think back to that emotional bank account metaphor.
Right. Making those deposits of kindness, empathy, understanding.
Because our relationships are such a vital part of our well-being.
They really are. They give us support, joy, a sense of belonging.
And they help us develop those essential social and emotional skills.
Exactly. So we've got to invest in them.
This whole idea of sharpen the saw, it's really powerful. It's like a reminder that self-care isn't selfish.
It's essential. We can't give to others if we're running on empty ourselves.
And when we take care of ourselves, we can show up as our best selves.
In all areas of our lives, for our families, our communities, the world.
This deep dive has been incredible. So many insights, so much to think about.
It's been a pleasure exploring these habits with you.
We've covered a lot of ground, but it feels like we've just scratched the surface.
It's a journey, a lifelong process of growth and learning.
And these 7 habits, they offer a roadmap for that journey.
Exactly. They give us a framework for living a more intentional, effective, and fulfilling life.
A life of meaning and purpose. It's not just about achieving success, it's about becoming the best version of ourselves.
I love that. Becoming the best version of ourselves.
And that journey starts with those first 3 habits, right? Being proactive, beginning with the end in mind, putting first things first.
Building that solid foundation. And then we can move on to building strong relationships based on trust and mutual benefit.
And all along the way, we're remembering to sharpen the saw, take care of ourselves, so we can keep giving our best.
It's a powerful cycle.
This has been a fantastic exploration of the 7 habits of highly effective people. I'm walking away feeling inspired and equipped to create real change in my life.
That's what it's all about.
Thank you so much for sharing your wisdom with us.
It's been my pleasure. And to all our listeners out there, remember, you have the power within you to create the life you want.
So go out there and make it happen.